Okay, let's unpack this. Our online world is, well, it's a whirlwind, isn't it? Constantly evolving and keeping up with all the new safety measures. It can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes.
It really can. It's a complex landscape out there.
Exactly. But governments are stepping in, trying to bring some order.
And that's precisely what we're diving into today. The UK's Online Safety Act 2023. It's a really ambitious piece of legislation, aims to fundamentally reshape how the internet works, make it safer.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to pull out the key bits of information, the sort of crucial nuggets from the official government explainer on the Act. We're going to give you a really clear picture of what it does, who it affects, and, importantly, how it actually impacts your digital life. No jargon, just the essentials you need. So let's kick things off with the core purpose. I mean, Online Safety Act sounds a bit abstract maybe, but when you get into why it exists, it starts to feel much more concrete, doesn't it? What's the fundamental change here?
Well, at its heart, the Act places significant new duties on social media companies and search services. It makes them much more responsible for user safety on their platforms than they were before. Basically, these companies now have a legal duty to implement, proper systems and processes to reduce the risk of illegal stuff happening on their sites and, crucially, to take down illegal content fast. And it's not just about taking things down after they appear, it's about preventing it too, proactive measures.
Right, proactive. So the big shift in accountability, really putting the onus on the platforms themselves. How big a change is that for these tech companies, practically speaking? And when we talk safety, who's it protecting most? Everyone equally? Or are some groups getting sort of stronger shields?
Oh, that shift in accountability it's massive, groundbreaking, really. For the first time, tech firms aren't just, encouraged to self-regulate. They have a legal obligation, and it's enforced by a powerful, independent body that changes the whole dynamic online. Now, while it aims to protect everyone, the strongest protections, definitely for children, absolutely, platforms now have to actively stop kids seeing harmful, age-inappropriate stuff, and they also need clear, easy ways for parents and kids to report problems they encounter. For adults, well, the big platforms have to be way more transparent about the potentially harmful content they do allow, and crucially, give adult users more control over what they actually see in their feeds.
Okay, and you mentioned an independent body overseeing this. Because laws are one thing, enforcement is, well, everything, right?
Exactly. That job falls to Ofcom. They're the independent regulator for online safety. Ofcom's role is to set out the detailed steps providers need to take. These are called codes of practice. And they've got a wide range of powers to check if companies are complying and to enforce the rules. But it's important to add, these duties are proportionate. They factor in the risk of harm, the size of the provider. A small forum isn't treated the same as a global giant. And, really critically, Ofcom must consider users' rights, like freedom of expression. The platforms have to as well. It's about finding that balance.
That balance is key, definitely. Okay, let's clarify the scope then. What kinds of services are actually covered? Just the big social media names, or is it broader?
It's pretty broad, actually. The duties apply to search services, obviously, and then basically any service that lets users post their own content or interact with each other. So if you can post, share, comment, chat, it's likely covered. Think social media, yes, but also things like consumer cloud storage sites where you share files, video sharing platforms, online forums, dating apps, even online instant messaging services. It's a wide net. And another really notable thing is the international reach. The Act applies even if the company is based outside the UK. As long as they have significant links here, that can mean lots of UK users or targeting the UK market, or even just if there's a real risk of significant harm to people in the UK using the service. It gives the UK's rules quite a bit of global clout, really.
Well, okay, so the reach is truly global. And beyond just setting duties for platforms, the Act also brought in some specific new criminal offenses, didn't it? Targeting individuals.
Yes, that's a really direct and impactful part of it. These new offenses kicked in on January 31st, 2024. They cover quite a range of harmful online actions, things like encouraging or assisting serious self-harm, cyber flashing, that's sending unwanted explicit images, sending false information intended to cause real harm, threatening communications, sharing intimate images without consent, and even something called epilepsy trolling. What's fascinating here is how these make certain online acts directly criminal. Epilepsy trolling, for instance, is sending flashing images deliberately to trigger seizures. Horrible stuff. And we've actually already seen convictions under the cyber flashing and threatening communication offenses. So it shows these laws apply directly to the person sending the harmful message, not just the platform hosting it.
Right, so the law passed, offenses are live. But how does it all actually get implemented? What does this mean for platforms right now? How does it go from paper to practice?
Good question. It's not an overnight switch. It's being rolled out in phases, very deliberately, led by Ofcom. This started right after the Act passed in October 2023. Ofcom develops detailed guidance, the codes of practice we mentioned. Those go through public consultations, need parliamentary approval. It's a structured process to give platforms time to adjust. So let's break down the main phases. First up was illegal content. Those duties are fully live now. Ofcom could start enforcing them from March 17th this year. Providers had a deadline just before that, March 16th, to get their illegal content risk assessments done. The actual codes for illegal harms got Parliament's okay back in December 2024.
Okay, illegal content first. What came next?
The next big focus is content harmful to children. Ofcom put out guidance on age assurance back in January 2025. Now, platforms that publish pornography, the Act calls them Part 5 services. They had a duty from January 17th, 2025 to get robust age checks in place immediately. The broader assessments for children's access were due by April 16th, and the really crucial codes of practice for protecting children. They were laid before Parliament on April 24th, 2025. Services that kids are likely to use have until July 24th, 2025 to finish their specific children's risk assessments. So the whole child safety part should be fully up and running by summer 2025.
And then there are the different categories of services.
Exactly. The duties for categorized services. These are the biggest players, split into categories 1, 2A, and 2B based on size and risk. The thresholds defining these categories were set last December 2024. Ofcom expects to publish a register saying who fits into which category by summer 2025, and then they'll consult on more detailed codes for these larger services probably by early 2026, so it's still rolling out.
That's a really helpful timeline, thanks. It shows it's a gradual but definite implementation. Now, let's dig into the types of content a bit more. What exactly are platforms now required to tackle?
Okay, several key areas. First, obviously, illegal content. All companies in scope have to take robust action here. That means implementing measures to reduce the risk of illegal activity on their service and having systems to remove it swiftly when it does appear. Search engines also have duties to minimize users encountering illegal content through search results. The Act lists specific priority offenses, things like child sexual abuse material, extreme sexual violence, fraud, terrorism, non-consensual sharing of intimate images, inciting violence. It's a serious list. And remember, it's not just about removing it, it's about designing platforms and policies to stop it appearing in the first place.
Right, prevention is key. What about stuff that isn't strictly illegal but still harmful, especially for kids?
Yes, that's the second major category. Content harmful to children. This covers material that might be legal for adults but damaging for children. The Act splits this too. There's primary priority content, this includes pornography, and content that encourages self-harm, eating disorders, or suicide. Children must be prevented from accessing this type of content. Robust measures are needed, like effective age verification. Then there's priority content. This includes things like bullying, abusive or hateful material, content depicting serious violence, dangerous challenges or stunts, promoting harmful substances. For this category, the aim is that children should be given age-appropriate access, meaning protection should be in place, but maybe not outright blocking for all ages, depending on the context.
And you mentioned suicide and self-harm specifically.
Yes. There's a very strong focus on suicide and self-harm content. Platforms must rapidly remove illegal content related to this and proactively protect users, especially children, from content that's illegal under the old Suicide Act 1961. Plus, as we discussed, there's that new criminal offense for intentionally encouraging or assisting serious self-harm. Ofcom's even set up a dedicated, small but risky supervision task force just for this issue, shows how seriously they're taking it. And the big Category 1 services. They have extra duties here, too. They have to consistently enforce their own terms of service about legal suicide or self-harm content, and provide effective ways for users to complain and get redress if they feel the platform isn't doing that properly.
It sounds incredibly comprehensive in what it's trying to address. Okay, let's pivot slightly. How does the Act protect adults specifically and tackle those broader societal harms we hear so much about?
Well, for adults, those big Category 1 services, the major platforms they have to offer adult users more tools for control. One key thing is the option for identity verification. The idea is this can help you reduce interactions with anonymous accounts, the so-called trolls.
Ah, the anonymous troll problem. That's interesting.
It is. And beyond that, these Category 1 services must proactively offer adults tools, mandatory tools, but optional for the user to switch on to limit their exposure to certain types of legal but potentially harmful content. We're talking about content that might encourage suicide, self-harm, or eating disorders. Also included is abusive or hate-based content, racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, misogynistic material. The tools need to be effective, easy to find, and use. It's about giving you, the adult user, more power over your own online environment.
That sounds like a positive step for user control. What about algorithms? They play such a huge role in what we see. How does the Act address them?
That's a really critical question, and yes, the Act does tackle it. Providers have to specifically assess and manage the risks that come from their own algorithms, specifically how those algorithms might increase exposure to illegal content or harmful content for children. So platforms can't just say, oh, the algorithm did it. They have to actively consider their platform design, their features, and their algorithms as part of their safety duties. It definitely raises that important question about platform responsibility for how content spreads, not just that it exists, especially if algorithms keep pushing harmful stuff at people. And the biggest services, the categorized ones, will have to publish annual transparency reports. These will include information about their algorithms and the impact on users.
Transparency is good. Now, what about specific protections for women and girls? We know they face disproportionate amounts of certain types of online harm.
Absolutely, and the Act recognizes that. It explicitly requires platforms to proactively tackle illegal online content that disproportionately harms women and girls. We're talking about harassment, stalking, controlling or coercive behavior, threats, non-consensual sharing of intimate images, revenge porn,
Yeah.
extreme porn. Ofcom is actually required to consult with the Victims Commissioner and the Domestic Abuse Commissioner when they develop their codes of practice. This is to make sure the experiences and needs of women, girls, and victims are properly reflected in the regulations. In fact, Ofcom published draft guidance specifically on tackling this kind of abuse for consultation back in February 2025.
That's encouraging to hear. Okay, one more really tricky area, misinformation and disinformation. How does the Act approach that minefield?
It takes a proportionate approach, focusing mainly on content that is already illegal or harmful to children, while trying to strongly protect freedom of expression. So services have to remove illegal disinformation if they find it. That includes state-sponsored disinformation that's illegal under the new foreign interference offense, basically. Attempts by foreign states to interfere in the UK using lies. If a service is likely to be accessed by children, they also need to protect kids from harmful mis and disinformation within the Act's scope. And for the big Category 1 services, they must take down certain kinds of misinformation or disinformation if it's banned in their own terms of service. They have to stick to their own rules. Ofcom's also setting up an advisory committee specifically on disinformation and misinformation. They were planning their first meeting around April 2025.
Okay, so there are measures, but it's a careful balancing act. With all these duties, what happens if companies don't comply? What teeth does Ofcom actually have, especially against huge global companies?
Ofcom has some pretty significant enforcement powers, actually, real teeth. They can issue massive fines up to $18 million, or 10% of the company's qualifying worldwide revenue, whichever is higher.
10% of global revenue.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. For the tech giants, that could easily be billions. It's a serious deterrent. But it's not just fines. Criminal action can be taken against senior managers personally if they fail to ensure their company responds properly to Ofcom's request for information. And senior managers could also face criminal liability if their company fails to comply with enforcement actions related to child safety duties or tackling child sexual abuse material on their service. And in the most extreme cases, if a service just refuses to comply, Ofcom can go to court and potentially get an order forcing payment providers, advertisers, even internet service providers to cut ties with the site. That would effectively stop it making money or even being accessible from the UK. It's a kind of digital blockade.
That's serious power.
It is, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, these powers apply to all companies covered by the Act, no matter where they're based, as long as they have those UK links we talked about. This gives the UK genuine global reach in regulating online safety. It's setting a precedent that other countries are definitely watching very closely.
So there you have it, the UK's Online Safety Act. It's clearly monumental in scope, a huge effort to reshape the internet, really, aiming to make it safer for everyone.
It really is, and it's an ongoing journey, isn't it? This whole field of online regulation, always trying to find that balance between safety and fundamental rights like free expression. But this act marks a major shift, moving decisively away from relying on self-regulation towards clear legal duties and, crucially, robust accountability.
Absolutely. So as these laws continue to bed in and reshape our digital world, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about is this. How might this increase focus on safety, on accountability, change your own online habits, your interactions, maybe even your sense of what it means to be a digital citizen going forward? Something to ponder.